Hey guys, and welcome to today's video. Well, in today's video we are going to talk about tuning mistakes that you can make on an M140i that you should avoid. Some of these modifications that you should avoid are B58 specific, and some of these are just one series in general specific. So the whole list that I will call is basically, a mixed match of things that you shouldn't do on a 1 series and on a B58. So it's only 100% accurate on this car. And, if you have a B58, you can also, pick up a thing or two about this video. And if you have a 1 series, you can pretty much do the same thing. So one modification that I really don't recommend doing is a cold air intake when you have a stock turbo. Why? Basically, the stock intake is as good as it gets, and basically when you have a stock turbo, the stock intake is probably your best option. When you have hybrid turbos, you basically need more air than cooler air, so then an intake is important because the stock one is restricting too much. But basically, if you're all about performance, then you shouldn't invest in an intake. I'm not running a stock turbo at the moment, and I will go with an even higher hybrid turbo later on. But for now, basically, if you run a stock turbo, and you can do it still for the sound, but if you think you're going to gain some performance with an aftermarket intake, I can clearly tell you, don't spend the cash. Just don't do it. You won't gain any performance. So that's basically the first mistake that you can make. If you do an intake on a stock turbo, it's fine. Just don't expect to see any gains at all. If you get a proper unit, maybe you'll see a gain, but if you get a shit unit, you'll even see horsepower losses and heat soak. So yeah, that's a B58 specific thing. And the next thing that I'm going to tell you is also a B58 specific thing. And that is going stage 2 on the B58. Gen 1s though, only the Gen 1. It doesn't apply on the Gen 2. But, the Gen 1 is only, delivered in the M140i. So, when you go stage 2, you need to upgrade the high pressure fuel pump. Because the stock high pressure fuel pump from the B58 is really on its limit on a stage 2 tune, and it's just not good. When your pump will age, you will get misfires when you're on heavy loads, even when on track days, and you're just asking very much of the car. The pump is on its limit. So a stage 1 is the safe limit for your stock fuel pump. If you want to go stage 2, you should really go where I have a little TU high pressure fuel pump. They're like €300-400, easy to find, and I think you better save than sorry. And for the cash that you're spending, you shouldn't take the risk, because you can get faults, because the pump will not inject enough fuel for your car when it's under heavy load. When you go on a stage 2, it's pretty much on its limit. So and if you do the stage 2 plus pump, like the TU pump that I'm using, then you can go stage 2 plus, and then you basically can gain another 20 horsepower on top, and another 50-60 horsepower, and another 70-80 newton meters in the mid-range. Makes a huge difference. So I would say get a pump. Do not run the stock pump if you go anything above a stage 1 tune. Then another mistake that people make, which is just for 1 series in general, but actually also more on the M140i than any other car, is suspension upgrades. Some people only lower the car with springs and keep the stock dampers. Don't do that. The stock dampers are shit. They're pretty decent on like a 120D with 200-ish horsepower, but on this car, with 340 horsepower stock, they're pretty much already small, exceeding the limit of the capabilities. You should upgrade your coilovers to a good kit, and don't run the stock dampers on a lowering spring. It will drive like shit. It will look cool when it's lowered, but it will drive like shit and it will not handle that good. For me, example, I'm running, if you can see that. Can you see that? Let's turn on. Yeah, I'm running a Bilstein B16 Demtronic kit. Not cheap, but it drives very good. I've driven with a car who had H&R springs on stock dampers, and that drove horrendously. This car is still a good daily driver, still very comfortable. It has the adaptive suspension, and in sport it's still pretty harsh, which that's what you want. So really, if you're capable to buy coilovers, don't keep the stock dampers. That's basically all I can say. Then the other modification that's actually also pretty much M140i and M135i specific is when you go to the rear and you see that your car comes with just an open diff. Run. Yeah, run. Get yourself an LSD. These cars become so much better to drive when you have an LSD. It's amazing. And especially when you're upgrading your car, making more power. I mean, these cars run over 400 horsepower with just a remap. So do M135i's. And with a little bit more work, 500-600 horsepower is easily manageable. So yeah, I would say get an LSD. I have an M Performance one. It will make your car so much more controllable, and it will make your car so much better to drive fast and to have fun and shenanigans and whatever. So yeah, I would really say not getting an LSD on this car is a shame. And you can also do it on a non M140i, but you have to get it custom made, I think. But really, on cars that make power like this one, it's a must-have. So an LSD is something that you should have. I ran a while without one. I didn't know what I was missing out from. Now I do, and I can guarantee you the LSD is one of the better modifications that I've done on this car so far. And then the last thing that you shouldn't do on this car, and that's basically 1 Series in general. And that is something that I did, and the car drove like shit, and that is mixing tires. Run the same tire in front and rear as you can. Do not mix tires. For example, what I did, I had a Pilot Sport 4 on this wheel, and a Pilot Sport, I had a Pilot Super Sport on that wheel, and a Pilot Sport 4 on that wheel. The car drove shit. It drove so terrible. It was very floppy. It drove terrible. And the traction control light was doing overtime on corners like 70, 80 kilometers an hour. Traction control kept flashing. Even I wasn't doing anything. I was just driving, entering a highway, and that stuff happened all the time. Very annoying. And it went away as soon as I got my front tires replaced with Pilot Sport 4 as well. I noticed though that what you shouldn't do is run a harder tire in the front as in the rear, but when you mix it, it apparently doesn't make that huge of a difference. So you can actually run a harder tire on the rear than in the front, but don't do it the other way around, because that will basically ruin your driving experience for real. I literally got different coilovers and also a new V-brace just to get it sorted out, because I didn't know about the tires, and it worked a little bit but didn't do that much. But yeah, I can tell you, mixing tires on this car is just a big no-no. And then if you stayed until this video, I actually have a little bonus for you. So another thing that you should avoid on this car is doing a muffler delete. A P58 gets very drony when you do a muffler delete. Delete everything else, get a catless downpipe, get resonator deletes, doesn't matter at all. Just don't get a muffler delete, because I know a lot of people actually got it, and a few weeks later they put the muffler back on because the drone was unbearable. And if you think, oh, my car won't be loud without a real muffler delete, bullshit. You get a gatless downpipe and resonator delete. You can also get like a sport damper on the rear, like I do have a muffler from Remus. And I'll give you a little example. So now I am cruising at around 70 kilometers an hour, and my car is quiet. It's just quiet. It doesn't make any more noise than a stock 118i. It's very manageable. I mean, there's no drone at all. Even when I up my speed to, let's say, 90 kilometers an hour, you can hear a little bit when you accelerate, not that much. and then when driving 90, still nothing at all. So when you drive 120, 130, you have a very little bit of drone, but it's just minor with the radio on and you're having a chat. You won't hear it at all. So don't do a muffler delete on these cars. Delete everything else except the rear muffler. Because if I put the car in sport like now and I go a little bit higher in revs, then you still hear the car pretty nicely. I mean, the car isn't quiet, but you know, the M140i, BMWs in general, the modern ones, they're isolated very good. So from the inside, the car will never be the loudest unless you remove isolation, like, you know, rear seats and, you know, some blankets and here and there. So if you remove that, the car will be a lot louder, but you know, for me it's a daily driver, so I don't want to do that. But yeah, I mean, this is basically loud enough. Basically the car will be as loud as with the muffler delete, except that that drone will not be there, and that drone is what will drive you crazy. So really, that's basically something that you should avoid doing as well. But it's, you only know it if you watch until the end. My neighbors do love me, basically. No, it's Pops and Mags is not for everyone. I like them. If you don't like them, I don't give a fuck. Oh, there's the Tesla. Boom! Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I will see you very soon. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. Hope I helped you with your tuning in the future. I helped you avoiding any mistakes. If I did, let me know. And I'll see you guys very soon. Goodbye.